burnt and buried under layers of volcanic ash following the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. But using artificial intelligence, Italian scientists are piecing together the text that was lost and what they reveal through this advanced infrared imaging.
For 2,000 years, the scrolls buried under Vesuvius sat locked inside black cylinders that no one could open without destroying them.
The scroll from Engedi came to us with almost no effort on our part. It was a real miracle.
They were treated as hopeless, burned beyond recovery, and left untouched in the dark. Then, artificial intelligence scanned their damaged layers and something impossible happened. Patterns inside the papyrus began to form real letters. The day the sky turned black. When Mount Vesuvius exploded, it released a violent surge of superheated ash and gas that moved faster than any person could run. This surge is known as a pyroclastic surge. The temperature reached between 200 and 500 degrees Celsius, which is hot enough to boil blood inside the body. The heat caused instant death. It created steam pressure inside the skull that was so extreme that some skulls burst open. There was no moment to think, react, or understand what was coming. Life ended in a single instant. Archaeologists later found the remains of people who tried to flee toward the shoreline. Their flesh was destroyed the moment the surge touched them. Only skeletons remained. Many skulls showed deep cracks created by sudden steam pressure. These physical details proved that death happened faster than the brain could register fear. Metal objects melted, jewelry fused to bone, armor twisted into strange shapes. The force of the heat erased clothing and skin so completely that only bone and a few hardened objects remained. Inside the town, destruction happened with the same speed. Homes filled with burning ash. Roofs collapsed from the weight of hot debris. Doors and windows shattered. People inside these buildings never had a chance to wake fully or understand what was happening. The air became a wall of fire that entered every room and killed everyone it touched. Wooden furniture turned dark and brittle. Cooking pots softened. Oil lamps lost their form. The entire town became a silent field of burned structures and lifeless bodies. The same surge that killed the town also changed everything inside it. The heat was so intense that it removed most of the oxygen from the area. When oxygen disappears, fire cannot spread. Because of this, many objects did not burn in open flames. Instead, they were cooked in a type of sealed environment where heat changed their shape without destroying them completely. The eruption itself began because molten rock and trapped gas rose inside the volcano. The pressure built up until the rock above it could no longer hold it back. When the pressure broke through, the top of the mountain exploded into the air. A tall cloud of ash and gas shot upward. When this cloud collapsed, it created the deadly surges that moved across the land and destroyed everything in their path. And while the ash destroyed entire towns, it also sealed away something Rome never expected to survive. It trapped a private library containing scrolls. These scrolls have just been translated by AI, and nothing prepared experts for the first words it found. What the AI uncovered led researchers back to the man who owned those scrolls. A man whose influence shaped the very ideas hidden inside them. The Cursed Library of Piso. Lucius Calpurnius Piso was the man who owned the private library that the eruption sealed under the ash. The rooms that held those scrolls belonged to his massive seaside villa in Herculaneum. Piso was not an ordinary Roman noble. He stood inside the highest circle of Rome's political world, and he held authority through wealth, family ties, and political influence. His connection to Julius Caesar through marriage placed him at the center of power. Important men entered his home. Influential thinkers depended on his protection. His position gave him the freedom to collect writings that were rare and often controversial. The library trapped under the ash was not a simple household collection. It was the personal archive of a man who controlled ideas that Rome itself often feared. Piso supported Epicurean philosophy, which made him stand out in a dangerous way. The Epicureans believed people should question strict traditions. They believed fear should not control life. They believed pleasure and clear thinking mattered more than the harsh public values that dominated Roman society. Many conservative leaders in Rome viewed these ideas as a threat. They believed Epicureans broke down loyalty to the state. They believed doubt could spread and weaken the authority of the empire. They often treated Epicurean teachers with suspicion. Piso gave these thinkers a home and protected their work. This created a private environment where ideas that challenged official beliefs could grow. Writers who lived under Piso's protection produced texts that questioned religion, wealth, and political power. These authors asked why people feared the gods. They asked why the wealthy clung to privilege. They asked whether ambition poisoned the soul. These questions were dangerous during a time when emperors used fear and tradition to hold control. Some texts went against the moral stories Rome used to shape its society. These works pushed people to think for themselves. Many leaders in Rome did not want this type of thinking to survive. Powerful officials burned books. They erased authors from public memory. They banned ideas that challenged authority. Yet they could not touch the library inside Piso's villa. The scrolls were protected by his status and the walls of his private home. No official could enter without risking conflict with a man connected to Caesar's family. Only the volcanic blast was strong enough to bury everything inside that villa. Piso's villa sat right on the shoreline of Herculaneum. There were terraces that stepped toward the water. There were long rows of marble pillars that looked out across the sea. The eruption changed all of it in a single instant. The pyroclastic surge tore along the coast. It slammed into the villa before anyone could escape. The heat struck so fast that everything inside the villa froze in place. Bronze statues softened and drooped, but did not fall apart. Marble floors cracked and shifted. Wooden furniture became dark and brittle. The scrolls inside the library baked in the oxygen-starved space. The papyrus hardened into black cylinders that looked like pieces of burnt bone. Most of the villa has never been uncovered. Under the modern town, archaeologists believe there is an entire second library still sealed. It may contain Latin texts that were never copied. It may hold writing that could change what we know about Rome. The ideas trapped there have waited in silence for almost 2,000 years. And now, as AI begins to uncover the surviving texts, scholars fear what might be revealed in those texts. But before AI ever stepped in, something far worse happened after the scrolls were discovered. 2 centuries of destruction. Almost 2,000 years after the town died, a new kind of destruction began. This time it was not caused by fire or ash. It came from human hands. In the 1750s, the Bourbon kings of Naples decided to dig into the buried town. They wanted treasure, statues, and anything that could glorify their rule. They hired workers who were not trained in archaeology because archaeology did not exist as a science. These men dug straight down into the hardened volcanic debris. They used mining tunnels that cut through ancient walls. They knocked down ceilings that had survived the eruption. They crushed fragile objects without understanding what they were destroying. Inside these dark tunnels, workers saw strange black cylinders buried in the ash. They did not know they were looking at ancient scrolls. They believed the rolls were pieces of burned wood. They picked them up and used them as firewood to light their way underground. The flames destroyed writings that had survived heat, gas, and total darkness. Entire works disappeared forever because someone needed a small flame to see in a cramped tunnel. This was a loss that cannot be counted or measured. Once scholars realized the cylinders were scrolls, a different type of damage began. A man named Camillo Paderni was the first to attempt opening them. He used sharp knives to slice the rolls from top to bottom. He scraped away layers to expose the writing on the inner sheets. His method was later called catastrophic. He removed the strongest and clearest layers first. These layers held the best text. Once they were gone, they were lost forever. The finest writing did not survive Paderni's touch. He copied what he could, but he destroyed far more than he saved. Later, the chemist Humphrey Davy tried a new approach. He soaked the scrolls in chemicals such as chlorine. He hoped the chemicals would loosen the layers. At first, the sheets opened. Scholars were excited. They believed the method worked. Then the ink vanished overnight. The chemicals wiped the writing clean. Sheets that had survived a volcano became blank in a single night because of a chemical bath. There were other losses as well. Some scrolls were stolen by workers. Others were sold in secret. Many were miscatalogued or simply thrown away when owners did not understand their value. Every mistake erased more history. A new attempt came later through a slow and careful machine built by Antonio Piaggio. His device pulled the scrolls open bit by bit. It saved more text, but it also caused damage. Some scrolls tore from the inside. These tears left scars that can still be seen today. After centuries of failure and destruction, humanity faced a chilling question. How do you read something that shatters at a breath? The answer would feel less like archaeology and more like an autopsy. The scrolls that didn't want to be read. When researchers began scanning the sealed scrolls, they discovered that the process would not feel like a normal scientific study. It felt invasive. It felt disturbing. It felt like they were entering something that did not want to be touched. The scanning took place inside the Diamond Light Source in England. This is a giant machine that produces extremely bright X-rays. When the scroll was placed inside the scanner, the first images on the screen showed something unsettling. The scroll did not look like a piece of papyrus. It looked like a charred lung. It had thick folds and deep pockets that resembled collapsed tissue. The surface was uneven and broken in ways that made the object appear more like a damaged organ than a piece of writing material. As the X-rays passed through the scroll, the computer created extremely thin slices of the interior. These slices showed layers curled tightly against one another. Many of the curls looked like burned skin. They had ridges and folds that resembled the patterns seen on human tissue that has been exposed to high heat. The researchers were not expecting this. They were expecting clean layers of papyrus. Instead, they saw shapes that created an uncomfortable connection between the dead city and the burned object in front of them. When the scientists digitally unwrapped the scroll, the disturbing details became even clearer. The papyrus fibers formed patterns that looked like scars. Some areas had long marks that resembled torn flesh. Other areas had empty spaces that resembled voids inside an injured body. These patterns were created when the scroll was crushed during the eruption. The pressure forced the layers together in chaotic ways. The digital unwrapping exposed every mark, every tear, and every crushed section as if the scroll had a record of its own suffering. The scans also revealed something called stress signatures. These are marks that show pressure, twisting, and tight rolling. The signatures on some scrolls suggested they were rolled quickly, possibly in panic. They were not stored neatly. They were grabbed, twisted, and wrapped under intense pressure. This added another disturbing layer to the scans. It meant that someone may have tried to protect the scrolls in the final moments of the town. The most unsettling discovery came from the ink. The ink does not appear as normal writing. It appears as warped fibers. The heat of the eruption burned the ink and forced it deep into the papyrus. What remains is not black pigment, but a faint distortion in the fibers. This creates what researchers call ghost ink. It is an impression of writing that has been absorbed into the scroll's body. When viewed on the screen, this ghost ink sometimes fades in and out. Some researchers described moments when letters almost looked like they were moving. The entire process felt like a digital autopsy. It was as if the scroll was a corpse that had to be opened by force after 2,000 years of resistance. This feeling grew stronger because a similar method had been used on the En-Gedi scroll in Israel. That scroll revealed sacred words from a burned synagogue. In the middle of this digital autopsy, something shocking happened. The first word. The moment the first word appeared on the computer screen was not loud or exciting. It was strangely quiet. It happened late at night when a 21-year-old student named Luke Farrader ran one of his experimental programs on the scroll scans. He was a young man who did not work in a major laboratory. He was not surrounded by a team of experts. He was sitting with his laptop, studying the data that came from the sealed scroll. The scans had been shared with people around the world through an open challenge. Many people had tried to find even a single letter. All of them failed. The scroll was too damaged and too distorted. Luke wrote the program himself. He built it from open-source tools and simple machine learning methods that he trained on marked examples of damaged papyrus. His program did not search for visible ink because the ink could not be seen in the scans. It looked for tiny distortions inside the papyrus fibers. These distortions form when ink burns deep into the scroll during extreme heat. This burned imprint is called ghost ink. Luke trained the program to detect these tiny changes and flag any area where the fibers showed signs of stress caused by writing. The program passed through the scan layer by layer and compared thousands of microscopic points. When the program completed one of its passes, a shape formed on the screen. At first it looked like a small curve, then the curve sharpened, then the shape became a letter. Luke froze and stared at it. The letter was not a random mark, it was a clear Greek letter. His program continued to scan and more letters appeared. They formed a single word. It was the first word ever read from a sealed scroll. The word was porphyra. In English, it means purple. The meaning shocked everyone who saw it. Purple was not just a color in the ancient world, it was the color of Roman power. To make purple dye, workers had to kill thousands of sea snails. They crushed the snails and collected the liquid inside them. The process created toxic fumes that burned the eyes and lungs. Enslaved workers were forced to stir the boiling dye in large vats. Many suffered permanent damage, some lost their sight, some died from the fumes. Purple dye was so rare and expensive that only the richest people could afford it. Senators, generals, and emperors wore purple. It was a sign of authority and control. It was a color born from suffering. The man who owned the scrolls, Lucius Calpurnius Piso, belonged to this elite world. People like him wore purple as a mark of their status. The word appearing inside a scroll from his villa felt disturbing. A color of wealth created through cruelty was whispered from a burned cylinder that came from a town where thousands died in seconds. This connection gave the word an even darker meaning. The scroll spoke a word tied to power, privilege, and suffering. The discovery had to be confirmed. Another researcher named Youssef quickly tested the same scanned area with his own program. He found the same word in the same place and the letters matched. But purple was only the beginning. When the AI dug deeper, the scroll revealed not just single words. It revealed the final thoughts of a man who wrote calmly while having no idea that the world around him was about to end. The other words the dead left behind. Once researchers moved beyond the first word, they found more text inside the sealed scroll. These new sections did not reveal anything loud or dramatic. Instead, they revealed a calm and steady voice. The writing was thoughtful. It was slow. It was peaceful in a way that felt deeply disturbing once the context became clear. The scroll contained reflections about pleasure, scarcity, music, and the value of small joys. The tone was measured. The writer took his time to explain how simple things could create greater happiness than excessive wealth or constant indulgence. He wrote about how music could bring powerful emotion, even when the sound was soft or limited. He wrote about the sweetness of small moments and the danger of wanting too much. These were the thoughts that survived inside the burned cylinder. One name appeared in the text. The name was Xenopantus. He was likely a musician. The writer used him as an example to explain how sound could stir a person's mind. This was not a political statement. It was a simple observation about how music creates feeling. It was the type of writing someone might create during a normal day. That normal tone is what makes the text feel unsettling. The writer had no idea that his world was about to end. The calm writing becomes horrifying when the setting is remembered. The scroll came from the villa at Herculaneum. The writer lived in a place that would soon be destroyed by a boiling wave of gas and ash. He wrote about pleasure while the ground beneath the villa held the pressure that would soon explode. He wrote about calm enjoyment while a force powerful enough to kill thousands waited under the mountain. He wrote about simple joys while the sky above him would soon turn into a wall of fire. Every sentence in the scroll becomes a death echo. The writer describes the sweetness of small pleasures, even though he would lose everything within hours. The manuscript itself shows signs that the final moments may have been chaotic. Some lines end suddenly. They stop in the middle of a thought. The sudden stops may show the moment the writer was forced to put down the scroll. There are scribal corrections that look rushed. The strokes are uneven. The marks appear thicker or thinner in ways that suggest the writer's hand was not steady. There are areas where the ink pattern shows uneven pressure. These signs may show stress or fear. The scroll does not tell exactly what happened, but the physical marks show that the final writing moments were not peaceful. And if these gentle, reflective words carried such darkness in hindsight, scholars now fear what the untouched scrolls may hold. The sealed scrolls no one dares to open. Hundreds of scrolls still sit sealed inside hardened cylinders of carbon. These are the scrolls that no tool, no hand, and no machine has ever opened. Some estimates place the number between 250 and 300. These scrolls are not damaged copies. They are complete works trapped in the exact shape they were in on the morning the town died. Many of them come from the part of the villa believed to hold the Latin library. This section has barely been touched. Historians fear that it may contain works that emperors banned, destroyed, or removed from public record. There is a real possibility that some scrolls hold political writing linked to powerful Roman families, or lost documents from Caesar's circle that were erased during purges. The digital scans already taken of these sealed scrolls show patterns that trouble researchers. Some of the scans reveal dense regions of ghost ink. These dense areas suggest longer works, more complex discussions, or subjects that carry greater risk. It is possible that these pieces include satire that mocked political leaders or secret histories that recorded events Rome tried to hide. Other scans show strange shapes inside the scrolls. These shapes include deep twists, folds, and ruptures. Some of these distortions may have been created when the scrolls were grabbed and rolled quickly under sudden pressure. These damaged areas suggest panic. They may show the last frantic attempt to protect the writings before the eruption struck. In a few cases, researchers found objects inside the scrolls. These objects may be pieces of jewelry, small tools, or writing instruments that melted and fused into the papyrus during the heat of the surge. These discoveries raise questions about what happened in the final moments before the villa was destroyed. Please click the link on the screen now for more interesting videos like this. See you there.